Ready? So, today is going to be a very interesting conversation. I have a couple of topics that we're going to start. And welcome. Thank you guys so incredibly much for joining us. Okay, so some of the topics we're going to be covering today are healing ancestral karma, 12 different expressions of each experience, and the crown chakra. The crown chakra viewpoint of each six chakra lenses, positive and negative polarity is 12. And so there's actually a 12-pointed Merkaba field above your head. And so when you properly align each of your experiential frequency codes, which is basically you had a trauma. And so it could be any trauma. And it could be in any time. It could be childhood, adolescence, or adulthood, because those are three. And so when you go through and you start to heal those, it unlocks one of the chakra points. And so each expression, you have an experience. And so the experience is what counts, because you have many people who walk the same exact experience. And so we each hold different expressions into each experience. And so what does that mean? And so what that basically means is we're holding different emotion codes to each and every experience. And so the experience is basically like ice skating, for an example. That's the one that they used on the post. And so you could be having the experience of ice skating. You have 6 positive experiences or 6 negative to select from, they're saying. And so what does that look like? That looks like beginner, intermediary, and advanced. That's 3 times 2. So you could have it in a positive polarity and a negative polarity, but there's 6 of each. And so you can have it professional ice skating, or you can have it at home ice skating. And so that's how we see that the experiences branch off and gives us access into multiple expressions of each experience. Now, it's important, and this is the reason why a lot of times we get hurt and then we learn by that growth. We grow by that pain. And so that's because of the law of polarity. So the law of polarity is basically when it says that each expression, you have different experiential frequencies to each expression. And so you have to feel the positive and the negative. And then when you feel both of those, it lets you go either the first degree, second degree, or third degree. And so when you master every single degree in a positive and negative light, that entire experience is no longer needed for your soul's growth. And so what that means is if you went through a very hardcore experience in this lifetime, if you held both polarities of that experience, then all of a sudden that whole experience is removed from your soul's contract, and then you no longer need to manifest that experience. So let's say you got into a car accident. And so that car accident, you had to go through the recovery and all that stuff. You saw the positive, you saw the negative. You pulled positive out of the negative, because we actually have an ability to do that as well. Every single experience that we have, we are capable of making a positive from a negative. And so that really is, it's light work in general, is pulling positive out of negativity. And so if you talk to the physicists, they'll tell you that new worlds and new growth and new births always have to come from darkness. And so that's how the physics works. That's why we have the source frequency. That's why we have the void. Ali, are you seeing any messages? Just give me a thumbs up, because I can see you. So I don't see any comments. Okay, perfect. Okay. So yeah, we have the void and we have the source frequency. And then when we know this, that means that we have the light and the darkness. Now, a lot of people are under the idea or concept, or they believe that we are supposed to be reaching into the light alone. That is not true. And so you have to realize that the light is connected into the dark. And so we're being called to incorporate both. And so that's the reason why actually every single human on this planet has trauma, because the trauma is the darkness. And so when you start the process of healing that darkness, you're holding light for that darkness. Well, the star people are stepping forward saying your Kundalini channel in the center of your body, it's light and darkness. And so the light is the one inside, the darkness goes over it. And so the darkness is actually birthing the light. That's the way the Kundalini works inside the body, and that's the way that we manifest into the physical reality. And so many times when we walk this darkness and we hold love in our hearts, that love is a form of light ion. And so we are allowing that love to radiate. Now, we know that it only takes a single candle in a dark room to change the ambience of that room. And so what does that mean? That means that you could be that one person with an open heart chakra shining your love in the civilization that needs it the most right now, because people are scared out there, and people are going through everyday struggles, and life is real for them, and life is real for all of us. And so when you start to show people and lead by example, and you just, it doesn't matter if someone is yelling and screaming and cursing at you, you have the choice of holding love and compassion for that individual. You have the choice of saying, I understand that you're really upset, and I love you, and it's okay, let it out, and it's okay, you can't hurt me, right? And so what are you doing? You're actually defusing the negativity by casting love at it. And so even if people are doing this and you're not in their presence, because a lot of the advanced light workers, and they're stepping forward and saying the empaths, a lot of the empaths can sense when someone is casting negative energy at them. And so opalite is a good crystal for that, because opalite acts like a mirror. And so anything that's cast at you, it automatically reflects back to its source. However, when you do get an opalite crystal, it's very important to set a manifestation program into it. And so you just tell the crystal, thank you for sending back all of the negative energy in love and light, because you're commanding that you're not sending the negativity back with just negativity. You want it sent back with love, right? So if they're negative, maybe someone will be loving to them and show them that their ways can be better, right? And that's how we're able to use our energetics to change the civilization that we see. So yeah, that's amazing. Changes in the source frequency lenses, which change the chakras in the primary lens. So the source frequency lens is that 12-pointed star that's above your head. So that 12-pointed star is kind of like a double Merkaba field. Double Merkaba field, it counter-rotates. Each one of the 12 points is a 12-point expression. That expression is something that each and every one of us encoded into our life experiences. So some people came into this reality with certain experiences that they wished to have a perception of. And so these are the big things that we go through in life to overcome. Maybe you lost your house. Maybe you lost your car. Maybe you lost your job. Each one of those experiences could have been one of those points. How did you handle the experience? Did you handle it with love and light? If you handled it with love and light, then that 12-pointed star, one of those tiny little points, lit up in light. When you light up all 12 of them, then all of a sudden it unlocks into the crystalline realm. This is what is meant when they say you must be 51% loving, caring, kind to make it to the next level. Yeah. And so when you start to realize and you start to go into meditative states, then you can start to look at the lens above your head. Now, when your biological form is fully in alignment, the star people are stepping forward. It's an Arcturian, and he is saying, when each one of your chakra subsystems is properly in alignment, your energetic grids will naturally come into a sense of balance and cohesion. When that happens, each one of your chakras start to unlock the Kundalini channels. So your channel of energetics, they're showing me, flows more correctly, and it starts rebalancing all of the meridians and ley lines. Now, when you start to do this, the flower on top of the head will naturally open up. When this flower opens up, it allows your soul or your astral form or your light body to break up and out of the physical form. Now, if that 12-pointed Merkaba is not properly in alignment or counter-rotation spinning, which means you've gone through all 12 of your expressions and you've handled them. They're saying that 6 may be from childhood, 6 may be from adulthood. They are including adolescence in the childhood. So it's split down the middle of the life point. So that all of a sudden, when that is properly balanced, it allows you access into the crystalline realm. And so what is the crystalline realm? It's the heavens. And so if you have people who have passed on before you, through the process of meditation, you can pull your astral form out of the top of your chakra, go up through that gate, because it's a kind of key to a gate. Or your energy is actually the key, because you have to be properly aligned in order to make it through the top of that gate. And then all of a sudden you go through the top of that gate, and then you have access into the octave range, which is a chakra system of above us. That's 5D. And so when you properly do these things, and you can see amazing things. And not only that, but you can just go up there and you can poke your head in. And so what does that look like? It looks like being overcome with joy and bliss. And so now that's really, really important, because then you take that emotion code and you go into your meditative. The meditative state does not have to be you laying down having a meditation for an hour. You can close your eyes. How does it feel? And constantly, I find myself asking that all day. How do I feel? How does this feel? Does it feel good? Do I feel good? I'm asking my body, how do you feel? I treat my body like it's an avatar. So you come and you pull yourself back into a third player perspective and you start asking your physical body, how does that feel? Are there any places on the physical form that need to be cleared? Is there any energetic blocks inside my physical form? I talk to my body. I love you, body. I bless you, body. Is there anything I need to place more focus on, right? If more focus or more love is needed, I clap my hands 3 times. I call the angels in. Thank you, angels, for helping me. I rub my hands. And then I take it and I go over and I send myself love and light. No one is going to heal you except you. And so you have to be the one to want to heal yourself. And so what does that look like? That looks like you have to make the intention. And yes, when we don't have energy, it's like kicking yourself in the butt to try and get you to move. That's normal, right? And so the more dense your existence, the slower your frequency, or the more your density is lower. And so when that happens, it can potentially feel like you are walking through water. And so if you are sick and you don't feel good, you may feel like you have a ton of bricks on you. That's density. And so how do we start to clear density? Very simple. One, if you have the ability to make it outside, take your shoes off, put your feet on the earth and breathe in the air. Thank the air, thank the water in the air, and thank all that stuff. Thank the ether that you're breathing in for giving you extra energy. And so sometimes just changing the location codes can be a breath of fresh air for us. And so you may notice that hot foods may bring you love, joy, and bliss, tiny bit, when you are hardcore depressed. And so why does that? Because love is a hot frequency. So the sun is hot. We feel heat from it. The frequency of the sun is very, very fast. And so it gives us warmth. It gives us life. Without the warmth, we would not be alive. And so when it's funny, because when you drink a hot cup of coffee or a hot cup of tea, then all of a sudden your brain waves register warmth and love-based emotions. And so this is why when friends get together and they want to sit down, they always have hot tea or hot coffee. And so there's no, we do this specifically because it's changing our emotional frequency into a love-based emotion. And so we keep doing this over and over, but we don't realize why we're doing it. So anyone who doesn't feel good, who feels depressed, sit down with a hot cup of mushroom tea. Just see how it makes you feel. And even if it's 5% better, that means it worked. So the next thing that you can do is start taking. Okay, we had a question come in. Do you have any insight on seeing a lot of rainbows in the clouds? Not after it rains. They appear without rain, just random rainbows coming out. Wow. There is a scientific explanation for the rainbows in the clouds. So many people are aware of the chemtrail program. So they are spraying forms of chemicals above our head. And now this isn't in everyone's reality, but the way that the realities kind of shift is you're either aware or you're not. And if you're not, ignorance is bliss. But when you're aware of it, now all of a sudden it's in your eye. So now you see it. And so if there's rainbows in the clouds, the first question I always ask is that a chemtrail? Now, I do not get scared of chemtrails because I know how the body is a frequency generator and it works the same as orgonite. So orgonite is layered material of organic material with inorganic material layered. And then there's a copper spiral in the center, and we put a quartz crystal. A lot of times they'll make them in the shape of a pyramid, but they'll also make them in 5 feet, 6 feet tall chemtrail busters, which basically have giant copper tubes going all the way up the top, so it's bigger than me. And then you point those at the chemtrails, and they wash away, and they're gone. And so that's how William Reich figured that technology out. And so he also built boxes of orgonite. And so they put people with cancer in it. The cancer got healed. Now, what are they doing? They're messing with the DOR energy. And so that's an earth-based energetic frequency is what that is. And so we can see the same type of energy in the vortexes. Pyramids generate a vortex energetic inside. Pyramid. Pi is fire. Right? Like pyro. So fire in the middle. That's what that is. It's a vortex energetic. And so when we go ahead and we sit in a pyramid, people have healed diabetes. They've healed their eyesight. They didn't need glasses. So all of these things come together because when you start learning them, you're like, oh, okay, well, I see the negative, but now I know how to diffuse it. So let's say I don't have a chemtrail buster. I don't have one of those big things. So what do? I drop into a meditative state, right? And it's not an hour meditation. Nobody has time for that. Sometimes we do, but sometimes we don't. But I go into a meditative state. I close my eyes, and we can do the meditation right this second. I'll show you how I do it. And it works for me. So it'll work for you. So you just close your eyes. And what I visualize is I hold in my heart, I open my heart, and I feel as much love for this planet as I could possibly feel. I imagine I like to fly. I want to unlock the flying ability first. And so I imagine myself flying over Earth, right? So you open your childlike mind and just visualize this. And so I imagine myself flying. And so I see the waterfalls, I see the rainforest, I see the monkeys, I see the animals, I see zebras running in a field, and I have so much love. I see dolphins, I see whales, I see the ocean. I see every single positive aspect of Mother Earth. And so Little Dicky made a song called Earth, and that song is, a lot of my visualizations come from his song because it's amazing. And so I see that, and I hold all this love for Mother Earth. And then I just imagine that this energy comes like whoosh from my feet, from the earth all the way up my body. So I imagine it's like the source frequency of the earth. I imagine it gets pulled up my body, out my crown chakra, and it blasts up into the upper atmosphere. Now, all of a sudden, I think to myself, wow, thank you. Thank you so incredibly much, Mother Earth, or source frequency, or God, or whoever you guys feel comfortable talking to. I think to myself, thank you, higher self. Thank you so incredibly much for this beautiful blue sky, sunshiny, warm day. And when I do that, now I just open my eyes. The whole process took about 30 seconds. And then I'm like, all right, fine, whatever. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Because I don't care if it happens or not. It always happens. So I have about a 90% rate that I've seen for myself. And so that's pretty high because things like that are not supposed to be possible. Now, the very first time that we tried to change the weather was back when my kids were little at the time. We were camping and there was an eclipse happening that night. So, a solar eclipse or a lunar eclipse. And so we said a prayer to God. I held their hand. I didn't realize I was doing a power of 3 because there was 3 of us, 1 boy, 2 girls, 1 son, 1 daughter, and me. And so we all held hands and we said, thank you, Lord, for cleaning the sky so we can see the eclipse. And then all of a sudden, I have the whole thing on video somewhere. A ring of blue opened up above our heads. And I was like, oh my God, all the people at the campground had saw this. And so we were all like, how did you do that? The whole sky was so foggy because they were spraying us 24 hours like straight. They did not want the eclipse to have whatever effect it was going to have on us. And so when I saw that, then all of a sudden I was like, that's just, it was amazing. And so to me, it was a miracle. But it now led me to believe. And so once you see something, it unlocks your belief patterns. And when your belief patterns become unlocked, you can do it again and again and again. And now it's become an everyday for us. So there are some times when it's raining and I'm like, yes, it's a mom moment. We can stay inside and get the work done. And the kids are like, they do their little sun prayers. And then all of a sudden we have to go to the playground. And so this is what happens. Yeah. Okay. What is the forward spinning I get when I begin meditation or energy clearing? I feel like a ball spinning forward, but without feeling dizzy. Okay. So the star people are saying that her Merkaba field or his Merkaba field can be spinning improperly. And so normally the Merkaba field spin left and right. And so if it's spinning, how did you do that? If she feels like it's her body is spinning like this, then her Merkaba field, instead of spinning left to right, it could be the other way. Now, they're also saying the personality complex has to be looked at. Inside each and every one of our Merkaba fields, your Merkaba field looks like this. And so it is a star tetrahedron. See, but it's also a cube of forms. Okay? Star tetrahedron or a cube. That is what your energy grids look like. And so for each person here, in order to be considered human or alive, each one of the points, you would have had to experience 8 different lifetimes. All of us easily have that in the bag, I would say, because we've been on Earth so many years. And then not only that, but starseeds have come from different planets. So each point has a different personality complex in it. And this is kind of the way that It's not split personality syndrome. There's another word for it, although I keep forgetting it because my memory is funny. But yeah, each one of these personalities and your lifetimes is what encodes each personality. And so your lifetime had to be male, female, female, and then you split. Now, this is actually just the way the cells produce as well, because the cells produce from 1 into 2 and then into 3, but then there has to be a shift and it makes a form of a triangle. And so you can have 3 together, but then the second, 1 cell division into 2, into 3, and then it shifts to make the triangle like that. So it's a 3-dimensional triangle. And so the only way to do that is to have 1, 2, 3, and then it splits a different angle. The angle is how this works. I don't know if I'm explaining it correctly to you guys, but there's 8 different personalities that each of us have in the Merkaba field. And so what the star people are saying is her Merkaba field is spinning incorrectly. Not incorrectly for her, incorrectly compared to ours. Everybody is different, and there's exceptions to each rule. What they are saying is have a look at the personality. And so has she had any switches in her personality because it's going the incorrect way? And so she should actually send us a message, because now I'm curious. I want to know. Yeah. Do you have any more questions? Okay. Let's see. Any clears her energy and then feels like she loses her gifts and then it returns again. Her eyes get blurry and feels strong energy and anxiety, and then she feels relaxed. It sounds like Ascension symptoms. Okay, yeah. And actually, I've been seeing that reflected into a lot of people with the vision. And so that happens because you have to realize that a lot of people right now, your energetics are pushing. And so, and this is probably the reason why the source frequency lens is coming up tonight with that question, because each chakra system is a source frequency lens, right? There's a little lens inside each chakra. And so when I do my sessions, I clean off each one of those lenses. Now, you have a source frequency lens above your head. That's a double 12-pointed Merkaba field. And so when you start to clean off each one of these chakras, it changes your perception into the physical reality. So what does that mean? When you start to clean off your root chakra, then all of a sudden, the way that you manifest abundance changes dramatically. And so if you're holding on to any emotional, addictive attachments into physical items, it's going to mess with your root chakra. And so that was one that I went through. I was a soda drinker. I had to give it up. I also like coffee. I had to give that up. And so what happened when I started giving up these physical items, because it is a physical thing. And so you give up something, you receive. When you give up something, you're clearing it out of your energetic grids and you're allowing for new stuff to form. And so that ended. And then I started smoothies and then juicing and then water. And so you can see how you go through little baby step processes. But what also happened when I gave it up, all of a sudden my money became unlocked.
Could you try again?
My financial became unlocked. And so I started manifesting things much, much differently. And so when you start to give up on any addictive patterning, and this does not necessarily have to be a food or drug. This could be anything, could be shopping, could be gambling. And so when you give up the addictive patterning, it's an energetic. Now, if it is something addictive, chances are, or very, very highly, that one of your 12-pointed stars, that's one of them. And so did you handle it from a positive? Well, it's okay to do scratch off once in a while. Did you have fun? Was it happy and excited? Yes. So you experienced a positive polarity from it. Then all of a sudden, these things turn into an addictive behavior. So that's the negative side of it. So once you receive both, boom, now it cross cancels that point, and then you send it love and light, and it unlocks for you. And you keep going on and on. And so the personality prototypes that are inside the Merkaba field, they are your past lives. They are saying, they're bringing me right back to that conversation because it wasn't finished. And so your past lives, now remember, let's say you're a man in the past life and you had a whole personality. So sometimes when this has a lot to do with the orange sacral sensual chakra. And during those sensual moments that we have, it is possible for us to switch the Merkaba field. Now, what happens is each one of these points, that top point fits into the crown chakra. And so when we shift the Merkaba field, it's like shifting a different personality into that crown chakra. Whatever personality is in the crown chakra is the one that flows out the body. You have to realize that each soul fragments into 8 personalities, but also multiple people at the same time. Now, part of the evolutionary process is us having the ability and potential to pull ourselves out of this body. And so your soul can not only hop from different personalities inside your physical form, they're saying that each personality will also have different attributes. So one personality may have blue eyes, one may have green. And so your eye color may actually shift. You may wake up one morning and a different personality is embodied, and then all of a sudden your eye color changes. Or your allergies, they're saying your allergies may also change. And so that's part of your personality complex. Everybody has it. We all have multiple, and it's okay. It's normal. And so a lot of times that whole system gets fragmented into subsystems because your personality shifts around different groups or interactions with different people. And so you may have a professional side. Some people experience trauma, and the trauma fractals the consciousness because you may create a creator, a protector, they're saying. And so that protector personality, it's kind of like being a little bit broken, but it's not really broken. It's fractaled, they are saying. And so when you have this, then all of a sudden, anytime anger or frustration or fear comes up, your protector will come out your personality and they will protect it because that's their job. And so knowing this, you are actually able, and ancestral karma was on the list. This is what they're diving into now. Some of these protector complexes can also be ancestral in their nature. And so it may be a taught or learned behavior. So a lot of times that this is ancestral, and when you heal it, you're healing it for the entire family lineage. And that happens a lot. So you have to realize the way that traumas actually affect the physical form. And so when we have a trauma, it is not only hitting into the emotional body because your traumas get stored inside your physical form, but they are also reflecting out into the energetic grid structure. And so what does that look like? That basically looks like each chakra system blasts out into a colorful grid that surrounds the body. So the root chakra has a red grid, the orange one has an orange grid. Then all of a sudden your aura field or your Merkaba field is all of those layered together. But you're not seeing each and every color as once because then we would look black or we would look brown, mud. And so you're not seeing them all at once. What they are is you're seeing a white light, and then each emotion radiates out when we feel the emotion. And so each emotion is connected into one of the chakra colors. And so we know this because certain colors make us hungry. Well, hunger is an emotion. It's an emotion code. And so when you feel the emotion code of hunger, all of a sudden you're radiating red, and that happens. And yellow. Yellow is a childlike mind. So certain advertisers know this, and they pick and select their colors to try and brainwave prompt you to be more hungry and eat more. And so when we understand what's actually happening here, then we can start to use it for our positive benefit. So how can we start to heal our bodies and change the way that we think and all of these things? You can start by one, taking it to your bedroom. Which color or which chakra system do you feel needs to be healed in your physical body? So let's say, for an example, you feel like your childlike mind is blocked because you're an adult, and everyone is told when they're an adult, life is a drag. And so by having more yellow in your room, you might become more childlike mind, may open up more, they are saying. And so that's really, really important because having a childlike mind is unlocking your creativity. And now, how many times have we actually seen this happen in the movies and the entertainment that we watch, where a movie or something will come out and then all of a sudden we find out it's real? And so if you take the X-Files, this is a perfect example. You take the X-Files, you listen to any one of their episodes, and then you take it to DuckDuckGo and go Google that episode. You'll find there are real events talking about what they're saying in the TV show. And so was it like that before, or was it a manifestation? We don't know, because the truth of the reality is that it's a simulation, and whatever we believe, we perceive. And now subliminal messages, they don't really get filtered through our belief system because we zonk out and we go into a zone of focus, and then all of a sudden it automatically programs into the subconscious mind. And so when that happens, it's like overriding the ego self, the belief systems. It's automatically downloaded, and then you see it in the physical reality. And so when you become aware, then you can start to go inside your subconscious mind. Close your eyes. Go inside the subconscious, because under meditative state, they've opened up recalls in people. Now, people were able to walk down a city block, and they were able to remember license plates, what people were wearing, what addresses were with each building front. And so, like, that's amazing. So your subconscious mind is like a supercomputer, and it stores all information in the now moment. all of it. So basically, you just want to unlock the memory grids, because in the process of unlocking the memory grids gives you access to all this information. This will make you limitless. This is an extrasensory ability that each and every one of us has. Now, having a proper mineralized body, salt, and the minerals of salt inside your physical form is of high value, because that will take it and amplify your electrical voltage system and your brain waves, which tunes into the thought complex, which is a thought grid, right? So all these systems work together. So the proper minerals, proper water, proper pH, proper oxygen, and all these things, it will fire up and your memory grid can be activated. And so what does that look like? When your memory grid becomes activated, it gives you access into your time-space ability. And so what does that look like? That looks like you can close your eyes and you can see the entire timeline that you were standing on. That is a 5D memory grid. And not only that, human beings also have the potential of foresight. So we're able to actually see into the future before it actually happens. This is how your intuition works. And so they put brainwave pads on people and they showed them pictures. And so before they would actually see the negative or dark picture or graphic picture, their brainwaves would fire off before the picture was played. So that basically tells us that we have the potential to see or intuitively know what's going to happen in the future before it actually happens. And that's really important. Wow, one more time. I'm just going to clear because I can feel it. Yeah, so 1 second, guys. Let's go down. Okay. Okay, so where was I? Yeah, so we can intuitively know our timeline that we're standing on. Now, that's really, really important, because when we know what's about to manifest into the physical reality, then we can change it. And so let's say, for an example, I call it the spidey sense. Let's say your spidey sense fires off. You know that there's going to be trauma or tragedy is going to manifest because time seems to go slow. And so it's actually giving you more time to change your emotional frequency. That's what's happening here. When time goes slow, trauma or tragedy is going to come. First thing that you should do is open your heart, right? And thank the source frequency for the experience and send it love and light. And now I've done this before. And so I felt the time space slow and I sent it more love and light. And then all of a sudden nothing happened. And I was like, wow, it was really weird. It was like crickets. And then I had a download. And they're like, yes, because your multidimensional nature basically, and the Arcturians are saying, basically allows you to make instantaneous emotional changes or modifications, which then in turn changes the timeline that you're standing on in the now moment. And so when there is trauma or tragedy about to happen, it's kind of like you're given enough time to make the frequency adjustment to change your perception of the holographic simulation, is how they're saying. And so what that means is that you don't have to have the car accident. You just have to feel love and bliss and joy in the trauma vibration and change the oscillation and change the timeline that you're standing on, which then in turn changes the manifestation. That's how that works. That's also an extrasensory ability, and that's really how you start to manifest your multidimensional nature, they are saying. And so your multidimensional nature also includes a meridian system and a ley line system. And so that's inside your physical form. Now, there were frequencies overimposed entity that shut down different chakra systems inside the head, the palms, the feet. So they basically used they used different frequency patterns to shut down our chakras. And it's the meridians and ley lines, but that is directly connected into the chakras. And you can kind of see our spleen got really, no, it was the appendix, appendixes. What is that word? Appendix got smaller. And so they're saying that one got tiny because they shut down one of the chakra systems that was running energy to that gland. And so it was no longer needed. It shriveled up. You have to remember, your body and your brain, everything works like a muscle. So you're either using it or you're losing it. And so when that happens, when the energetic gets shut down, it's basically like you're not using the muscle. And so body organs and stuff is directly connected into the chakra subsystems. And so they could start to shut down. They could start to atrophy. We can also see this in the pineal gland, they're saying. And so your pineal gland has shrank in size because 100,000 years ago, it was much bigger. And so, yeah, all that stuff. Okay, so let's talk about energetic pulse people. Okay. This one is really, really important. I felt the need to change the topic because it's something that doesn't want me to really discuss it, and I can feel it. So, energetic pulse people. So, there are people on this planet who have a type of energetic encoded into their grids. And when they're around, it may seem or you may perceive like they are there's always chaos around them, but that's not really the case. What they are is it's a type of energetic being. And so what they do is their energy is encoded to pulse any density out of your energetic grid structure. And so what does that look like? That looks like they come around and then all of a sudden you may have bad luck. And so what is that though? It's kind of the same as the moon and evolution because the moon works the same exact way. Now, some people may think that the moon is negative. The moon actually affects the waters of the earth, but it also has a very high energetic effect on us. And so we do see a lot of tragedy and crime and like accidents and stuff during full moons. And the reason for that is because it's doing the same thing as one of these energetic people. It's pulsing your grids and removing the density. And so when that happens, then all of a sudden, of course, your cycle repeats are going to come up, or you may have tragedy or traumas manifested in your physical reality. And this happens specifically so that you can release the darkness that you are holding on to. And so the moon is actually helping us to evolve at very, very rapid rates. So it's actually a blessing in disguise. And so I just want you to imagine your energetic grids are supposed to be clear. They're supposed to be like a bright, bright yellow, white light. And so when we see it and it has like a sunglasses shade over different parts, that's when we know that we have a trauma or we have an emotional vibrational resonance that caused an energy blockage. And so what the moon does is it takes that sunglass shade and it pulses it to try and get it off your grid. And so now it's up to us. We have this chaos that just like landed in a lap. How are you going to deal with it? If you deal with it with love and light, it stops the cycle repeat, which then in turn allows this to start the process of healing. It doesn't mean that the sunglasses shade is fully healed. It means that the cycle repeat stopped. You may still have a little mark there that you have to go in and send energy. Now, I know we are supposed to be clan people. We're supposed to live in a pack. We're not supposed to be living like this. It's supposed to be smaller communities where everybody knows your name. And so what has happened in our civilization was quite genius, actually, because you bus loaded people from here and put them here and put them here. And you grouped everyone together in tiny little cities. And now all of a sudden there's way too many people and nobody knows each other. Not only that, but the tiny little communities, now all of a sudden they had to leave their community to go find work. And so everyone is just, it's chaos out there. That's not the way that we were supposed to be living. If you live in a town, you're supposed to work in that town. And so it's for the town residents. Why should you have to travel 100 miles to go work? You shouldn't. And so the reason that I bring this up is because you are meant to have energetic pulsing people in your group. Each one of us are. And it's kind of like one of the 12 points, but this is a different aspect. You're supposed to have 12 different zodiac aspects around you. Now, each person in your circle, each primary circle is supposed to have 12. And so what does that mean? That really means that each person is a different zodiac. Most of the times, there are exceptions, but each one activates different gifts. So you always have that one person in the group that brings chaos, or they don't bring chaos, but chaos shows up when they're around. And that's because their energetics are encoded to pulse the density off your energetic grid. And so that actually allows you to clear the energy in your grid and rebalance it and go through the experiential much, much faster. And so some people they go and they hang out with people and then they notice that they have all this drama, but they might not even be there for when the drama happens. They're just there to pulse. That's one of the 12. And so there's many different types of energetic people. There are people who cast their energy wide. And so you may have like master number 22. And that's me. And so my energy goes very wide into the civilization. And so what does that mean? That means that when I'm happy and I'm joyous and I'm sending energy out, I notice the reflections being back wider in the civilization. Right. And so that also means that someone who wants to like build a community or something, that would be the number to do it. But there's number 11s, there's 22s, there's 33s. So the numerology is very, very important because you will notice that certain subliminal programmings on like TV shows and such, they're using numerology. So it's something to become aware of, especially when you start to realize that there's a binary codex or a binary code underneath each number. And so Galbani codes do this as well. So they figured that when you take a string of numbers, right, say 87051, and for an example, and then they pull the frequency of that binary code of those numbers, and then all of a sudden certain number patterns actually heal things. So if you wrote down the number pattern, that number pattern on a little piece of paper and you shoved it in your pocket, it's going to either bring you abundance, or it's going to heal your cancer, or it's going to heal your eyesight. And so what I went ahead and did is I wrote down the abundance code for, it wasn't unlimited money. It was spontaneous money gifted to me. And I threw it in my wallet. And then I started finding money everywhere. And so you can do it too. You have to believe. But the frequency code, see, it works the same as a crystal. And so the crystal, if you believe it can spontaneously heal you, it will, because it's the placebo effect. This is how the physical reality works. It's not really physical. And so when you have a crystal, the frequency of the crystal vibrates. We can see this. And so we can see your aura field in your hand. It goes out a little bit. So by you holding the crystal, this frequency blends with your frequency. Then all of a sudden, your entire body now accepts the quartz's frequency, which changes your aura field frequency, which changes the way that you manifest into the physical reality. And so these are more like subtle energies or subtle changes into your physical reality. However, if someone is at a very tragic or dark, dense emotion code place, let's say they're really sick. Someone who has rheumatoid arthritis, for an example, because I had this experience once. I put a quartz crystal in their hand, and all of a sudden they had a spontaneous kundalini rising, which usually happens when we're at our darkest frequency. And so that's something to be aware of. Okay. So kundalini rising, normally, that's usually, the star people are saying that that's the call for awakening. And so it always usually happens at a really crummy time. Yeah. Are there any questions? No questions? Anybody? Okay. So moon evolution, density and motion. So let me just see. Hold on. Okay. So density and motion. When your density levels drop, now, when you are depressed, when you're walking through your darkness, can you see that one posted on the screen? No, I don't. I can't see the screen. It's blocked by the message box. Let me close the message box. The best way to meditate and close contracts and let people and things go now seems like the current for November. It could be. I haven't really noticed yet. So we'll see about it. I normally give it a couple. It's only 3 days into the month. So I really, as far, like, I try not to follow the zodiac or the shifts. I like to feel the shift. And then I'm like, oh, we're in a shift. And then I'll start asking people, what's happening? Is there a retrograde? But I like to feel it first, because it's kind of like a surprise, right? And like, you don't want to base your entire life around, oh, there's a retrograde, so let's get scared. I'm not doing that. I don't have time for that, right? Every morning I wake up, I'm going to say my positivity. I'm going to say, today's the best day ever. I'm going to say, thank you for letting me wake up today, right? Because I've had near-death experiences. And so thank you. Every morning is a blessing. So that's how I'm going to start my morning. And yeah, I was on a motorcycle once, and I almost hit a pothole and flipped the bike. The star people actually sent me a telepathic vision of me crashing and burning out and stuff. And so that was not good. But then as soon as I saw the entire vision of me flipping the bike at 200 miles per hour, it was like I was miles back on the road, and it was like I was back on my bike riding, and they spoke to me as if they were in my helmet, and they said, you're not listening to us. And so the second they said that, I said, oh my God, I have to go home. And then I asked my mom, was that God? Who the hell was that? Who's us? Right? And so I said, God, I was a little kid. Yeah. So that was crazy. But the second that you have an experience like that, it opens up your mind. Who was that? Who's talking to me? How did they do that? Right? And so, but then, 20 years went by. Who knew? So it's crazy. Yeah. There's another one. Let me see. Yeah, I can't really read that message bar, Allie. So if you could just private chat it, would probably be better. I noticed for a long time now that when I read people, their cerebellum is way underactive. I always felt it was related to past lives. Any insight from the Starseed folks on this? It could be many, many reasons. They're actually saying a lot of time diseases, fluoride, all sorts of chemical combinations. They're specifically saying aluminum. And so a lot of times that we've been chemicalized. And so it's in everything. But it's a good thing, because what's actually happening now is you can take a human being, you can put them into a chemical planet, and we can still survive. And so it's making the species stronger. And not only that, but each and every disease will always start in your energetic grids, not the physical body. So there has to be an emotional imbalance first that then generates the disease or cancer to form. Now, because we're going through all of these experiences, once again, it's like the 12-pointed star that's above your head. You have to go through all these experiences in order to evolve. If humanity as a whole didn't go through all the sickness and distortions and the accidents and there's 1,000 ways to die, right? And so they even have the TV show on that. But if we didn't go through all of that, and then to learn the conspiracy and the governments and all that nonsense, if we didn't have all of this negativity, and if our lives had no sort of stress put on it, then we would not be evolving this rapidly. And so just seeing the complete, storm in the civilization, it's a blessing in disguise. See, normally it would take 100,000 years to evolve the species and unlock the psionic abilities. We're being given access to do it very, very rapidly. Not only that, but the Starseeds came here in order to save the planet. So I know what that sounds like. It sounds so crazy even saying it, but I'm just like, that's what the star people say. They say that they flooded the planet with starseeds. There's about 46% people here now in a physical form are starseed in their nature. And so they are holding higher frequencies of love and light in their energetic grids, which is raising the planetary frequency, which saved the planet. So now they see that we evolved. So we already won. We're on the timeline. It's already set, because they can see through time and space with their technology, as well as their Jedi can see. And so Jedi is the Jed Pillar Unk. So that's a frequency device, which is you're now tuning your body into a Jed Pillar Unk. And so you are using yourself as a frequency generator to change the physical reality as you see it. So what you are doing is you are changing your emotion codes that you are vibrating in the now moment, which then in turn is changing your perception of the physical reality, because it's not the spoon that bends. That's impossible. It's inside of you that bends, that generates the spoon to look like it's bending. How does that work? Right? That was my question. How does that work? And so now I understand, because in order to change the spoon, you have to change your focus of perception. And when you change your focus of perception, then all of a sudden there's a frequency code inside of you attached to a belief system. And that belief system has to be unlocked. And then you have to learn how to project the emotion code at the spoon. So what would you feel if that spoon bent in front of you? Well, what are the emotion codes that you would feel? Because I know what I would feel. I would feel happy and excited, right? I would jump for joy. And so you spoon, you jump for joy. Keep trying it, because the more and more you put focus on, the more and more it will manifest into your physical reality. Now, everyone is different. So some of my gifts were electricity. And so, seeing the street lights flick on and off, or turn off as I walk by, or turn on as I go by, or as I drive under them, they shut off or turn on. Making lightning, that happened a couple of times. And so instantaneous manifestation I've experienced. I have actually experienced the Speed Force. And so that one happened on accident when I was running with my kids. And so all of a sudden it was like my heart only pumped once in the entire time I was running, and it felt different. So it felt like I had tuned into something way different. And we were really happy and excited that day. So now, of course, I learned later that martial artists are taught to do this at certain levels. And so at certain levels, they'll use the breath of life, and then they'll slow their heart rate as they're doing their moves. So if you've ever seen like one of the karate movies where he's going super slow and doing his moves, he's actually accessing the Speed Force. And so we can use the breath of life to do that. Now, when you're running, you're using the breath of life, doing it automatically. You just don't realize what you're doing. And so we all have this ability to do this. Okay. Are there certain guides we can work with or call on to help with knowing where to work next? Also, how do we connect to our higher self? Okay. So this is, the guides actually change. And so many people don't realize this. And I've went through it, and I asked all the questions, and I'm like, why? Right? Because I thought my guides were with me from the beginning to the end, and we are so loyal to each other, and that's not the way it works at all. And so what they say is this: your guides are going to come with you when you're at a certain level of consciousness. And so you may have guides. Let's say, for an example, you're a level 22 consciousness. You have a level 22 selection of guides that can choose to work with you. And so then all of a sudden you've released an attachment, right? So you've released something from your energetic grids. So when you release, you receive new. So when you start the process of raising your biological frequency, your guides are going to shift. So you may notice that you're not going to have the same guides. You're going to have more intellectual guides, or if they may be more loving guides. It all depends on what you choose for your selection. And so the guides are ever changing. And so sometimes you may have had 10 star families, right? And so not a lot of people know this either. I normally give 3 star families or attunements to different families, but you could have been potentially in 10 different lifetimes and 10 different planets. You had to have 8 different lifetimes in order to fill your Merkaba field. So I did the 8 lifetimes. A couple of them were probably on Earth. Some of them were probably on the starseeds. Some of them could have been dolphins, aquafarians, but the dolphins and whales, they come from other planets as well. So we just say dolphins and whales, but they're on a couple planets. Not only that, some of them have even, and I don't know how they do this, but like some of the aquafarians, it's like a mermaid person, but they're all different under the water. Some of them have technology. How are they using electricity under the water? So there's so much information about technology that we are just unaware of. And so these people live under the water and they have technology. How are they doing it? That's one question. Because if they have it under the water, how are they're not getting solar energy. They have to be tapping into the 0 point technology, which is free energy, because in the amount of a sugar cube can boil off all of the world's oceans. That's how much energy is in a sugar cube. So yeah, your guides also, they're going to take you through your process of healing for that consciousness level, they are saying. And so basically what that looks like, the beginning levels, I mean, when I had just flipped from my darkness, my dark path, into my light in 2019. And so some of the things that they had me do was they had me change what I was eating. But that was more like a natural intuition. So when you become really, really happy, then all of a sudden, after a couple of weeks, you start to want to change your patterns of eating. And this happens automatically. And so, but they had me spending more time in nature. I had a dog with me, and that was kind of like an emotional support animal. And yeah, there were many things. I was doing earth grounding. I was going to the beach. I was releasing. I was crying when I had to cry. Get it out, let it go. But they also had me do mudras, which are different hand positions. This was one that they had me do constantly. And I would put my thumbs right up to my heart. I don't know what this means. I just know that this is what I had to do it all the time. But I would do this, or there was one where I had to put my arms straight out, and then I would have to put my neck all the way up, and I would have to lift my right leg. Now, I was also dealing with sciatica in the right leg. And so they said that just by that body movement, now that's kind of like a yoga pose. And so what happens when you do a yoga pose? You're actually changing the energetic flow in your physical form. And so all of these things that we just think, oh, it's only yoga, right? They just want to go and stretch. That's not the case. There's actually a real significant energetic shift that comes through the physical form when you do these things. And so, yeah. What is that? Let me see. How do we connect to a higher self? So the higher self is emotional in nature. And so it is a soul form, which is electrical. It's a frequency. And so, but when you are holding on to high, blissful, emotional frequencies, right? So if anyone is ever, and like, I'm not a religious person at all. I know, because I talk to angels and all these religious figures, but I'm not really religious. I'm science. And so, but when you put on like religious, like spiritual music, right? And I'm talking like something really inspirational that just like it rattles you or it gets to your core. When you put one of those songs on and you just let that feeling wash over you, there's actually, they're saying that there's sacred geometry songs that you can listen to that will actually have such a significant impact on your emotional body. And so when you put one of those songs on and then all of a sudden you just feel this love-based emotion wash over your entire physical form, that is when you can call the higher self down. So anytime you are tuning into love and bliss frequency coding, and especially when your Merkaba field activates, then the higher self is going to have eyes directly placed on you. And so when the higher self places eyes on you, that basically means you can coax. And it's kind of like a sensual, I have to choose the correct words. It's a sensual coaxing of come on down, right? And so I'm in love. And so come on down. And then it's from your heart. And so you can actually have a heart, we're going to call it a heart chakra blast, right? And so that can actually radiate over your entire physical form. When that happens, the higher self automatically embodies into the heart chakra. And so the heart, the higher self, when it embodies into the heart chakra, it's about a foot away from the body, and it kind of looks like a pine cone, whereas it'll start to open up. And so when the higher self fully embodies into the heart chakra, it's into the physical material. When that happens, the higher self automatically starts to place you on your highest potential timeline. So your highest potential timeline is the most joy, fun, and excitement. It is not the most rich timeline, because money does not make us happy. That has been scientifically proven. You can see all these people who win millions, and then they're still depressed and unhappy, and all this stuff happens to them. So money really is just a tool to get us to manifest. That's all it is. And so if you have some, give some away. Be nice. There is a scientific reason why you're supposed to give 10% away. The more you give away, the more that comes back to you. It is a form of a blessing. So bless it out and it comes back. And so I like, even with my tips, like pizza shops or waiters, waitresses, like I'm not cheap anymore. Whatever the tip was supposed to be, we're doubling or tripling it. And so it'll always come back. Just don't worry about it. And that's it. Be nice. Okay. Is it safe to share details in the name of your higher self with others? I heard this can bring negative attacks. Well, negative attacks are funny, right? So what is a negative attack? And so I had voodoo cast at me once, and it wrecked my entire life. So funny. Now I can laugh about it. And so what happened? What's actually happening spiritually when someone casts negative energy at you? Yes, it can potentially make an energetic cord, and that person could be siphoning energy off of you. Yeah, that happens all the time. We make so many energetic cords, especially when we're having intimate moments with multiple people. Then there is as many people as you blended with, you have an energetic cord that needs to be cut and cleared. And so a lot of times those cords will send information both ways. And so if they are thinking about you, you may get energetically pulsed. This is the way that works. Now, this doesn't only happen with intimate moments. This happens with your mother, your father, your kids, your best friends, right? And so if someone's angry at you and you guys have an energetic cord, if they are thinking negative thoughts about you, you can have those emotions will come over you. Now, because people don't realize about the telepathy, they will not realize that these are telepathic emotions that they are feeling. They are just going to subconsciously think, oh man, I feel like crap. Okay, maybe those thoughts and emotions are not yours. Maybe there's something that being cast upon you with telepathy or telempathy. Empathy is the emotions. And so the second that I start feeling any type of yuck, I take it to, I crystal. I do all my little things. If I really feel yuck or I feel like there's an entity in my house, I'm grabbing the sage. I grab the sage, but not only that, I tell them to get out and then I go for a walk, right? So I give you time to get the hell out of my house. And, I don't send them love and light. I used to be really polite to them. And so when you're really polite to negative attachments like archons or shadow people, some of them, because they are made of dark matter, when you cast light at dark matter, it could potentially, it like explodes them. And so these beings are conscious. They have a language, they have a civilization, they have technology, they have children. And so we don't wish them harm. It's just they're in a bad situation right now. We should have compassion for them. So yeah, sharing details in the name of your higher self with others. So that doesn't really matter, because your higher self, it isn't really a name. They're just giving you a name to kind of like appease you, right? So you can call me this, but the truth is the higher self knows that it's one with everything. And so they're just a fractal of the light. Their name changes every single second. Most of the times, and this is why, like I work with a lot of angels and like very high frequency beings. A lot of them do not have names. A lot of times in my sessions, the very high frequency beings will step forward and they don't have a name. So I'm like, I don't know who to tell them is working with them, but it's like, they're at a very high frequency level. They don't have a name. So yeah, they're beings there's blue ray beings, blue. And then there's also bright white light people. And so a lot of times they look like orbs when we see them, right? When I see them in meditation, when I'm pulling at your energetic grids, they look like white silhouettes of a being. And so, but there's so many beings. And so, yeah, it's just, and then not only that, but let me tell you something, every single species on this planet, you have to realize that every single insect on this planet, a lot of them have been dropped here by species up there who was like, oh, well, I'm a human. Let me make a tiny version of me and it'll be an insect and we'll go put it on the planet. It does, right? You have the mantis beans. They're giant praying mantises. So how the hell do you have one of those and then a tiny praying mantis being down here? Well, that's because a lot of the animals and insects on this planet were seeded here. And so why were they seeded here? Earth has some of the most diversity. And so they are constantly telling me that. Don't you love your planet? Like, you guys have everything. You can go to a zoo and you can see all these different animals. It's not like that on other planets. And so they may have a couple here and there, but our diversity is out of this world. And so, you know, you have to realize that if we were genetic masters, right, what would we be doing? We would be making tiny versions of ourselves and going dropping them on their planets, right, and seeing what they do. And so and then not only that, but take the praying mantis people for an example, right? Let's see who kills the little bug praying mantis because they're telepathically wired. And so let's see who's nice to them. And many people, actually, there's cat people up there too, because they're stepping forward. They're in the room with me right now. And so some people turn out to be like crazy cat people. And so a lot of times that happens when you're going through density or darkness. You'll have a lot of cats around you because cats always want to come to you and heal you. But who's ever really, really nice to the cats, right? Well, the cat beings are watching. And so that's kind of important because the crazy cat people, like I was, for a time, I made fun of them too. And so I took it back when I turned into one of them, right? I experienced both polarities, the positive and the negative. And so, yeah, the big cat people, they watch and they see. And then not only that, but it's kind of like if you're ever in an energetic flux where you need help, then all of a sudden you never know who's going to step in and be like, here's your help, and help you energetically, or even shift the manifestation of whatever is about to, like, whatever hellfire is going to come your way, they can diffuse it. And so I've seen them change my timelines before. I've seen instantaneous manifestations of items, and the star people like, you're welcome, right? So these are real things that they can do for us. And so they're not going to do it for millions of dollars. I've tried. They won't do it. You know, you have to stay humble and work your way up because you want to open a tiny home community. So I had a reason, but they're like, no, you have to work your way. But they can instantaneously manifest items for us. And so, but they'll do it playful and small, right? So like, let's say for an example, you're missing your car keys. Maybe, poof, they're there on the counter, whereas before you just didn't see them. And so they do things like this. It can be fun. Like, this is a really fun relationship that I have with them. So, okay, does the technology we live in today mock natural universal law, 5G, electric grid, solar? And so, well, it goes higher than just Earth because it actually tunes into Saturn as well. So Saturn, the rings are actually in fluctuation. And so we can tell that Saturn, scientifically speaking, we can tell that Saturn is actually broadcasting some type of frequency. And so the star people have said before that Saturn is broadcasting a frequency that's hitting into Earth and that's grounding us into the 3D a tiny bit, a lot. And so it's kind of like, yeah, it stinks. But it's okay because whatever happened, there was a rip in the density level of this planet, which allowed the lower vibrational beings to come from the dark octave, which is below our feet. And so they were brought up to our octave. So this is why they feed off of us. Like I said, it's a bad situation for them. And so we have compassion for them. But Saturn is grounding us into a 3D perspective. So we eat, we sleep, we work, you pay your bills, you go over and over. So that's a 3D perspective, right? So this entire universe was at 5D. And so we dropped in consciousness. This is how it was done scientifically with technology. And so you may also notice that in certain planets, there's a hexagon on the top and on the bottom. And so that begs to ask the question, well, what frequency is happening there? Why is it a hexagon? Hexagon is the emotion grids. That's in the heart chakra. Is that an emotional frequency that planet is radiating? Now, we become aware of subliminal messages in the TV shows. And so your TV, even though it's plugged in, it might be off, it's radiating certain frequencies that actually ignite certain brainwave patterns to trigger you to want to put the TV on. And so those frequencies even happen if you unplug the TV. And so that's kind of evil, right? And so we take a look at subliminal programming. What is subliminal programming? Now imagine if it's just auditory, because subliminal programming goes two ways. You got the visual, but you have the auditory. And so certain auditory subliminal programming we were watching a news program, news show one. I wasn't watching it. My parents were watching it. And so something happened. And like all of a sudden there was a satanic cult image underneath the news broadcasting. And so, but the picture is overlaid so that you don't see what's behind the primary picture, but your subconscious mind sure as hell sees it. So it kind of makes you ask the question, right? What is happening with all these frequency codes? Why are they trying to trigger us into negativity? Why is all the music negative, right? That whole conspiracy and that whole shenanigans, all of that darkness and nonsense, that's actually a really, really good thing, because without all that negativity and programming, we wouldn't be given the option to evolve spontaneously and very, very rapidly. See, we are told and programmed from the school districts to believe that we evolve over hundreds of thousands of years. That's not how it works. So they took flies and they put a brick of wood in a fish tank with the fly. And so the flies, they either had to eat the wood or you're dead, right? And so what did the fly do? Well, about 80% of them died. The remaining 20% spontaneously evolved overnight, and then they were able to eat the wood. And so what's happening with all the subliminals, with the TV, with the music, and the negativity, and the chemicals, and the chemtrails, and all of that nonsense, right? You got to just laugh at it, because it's giving us the potential to look inside of ourselves and to evolve. Now, I can tell you right now, this reality is not solid at all. So it's kind of like a last cry from them, because they know what's about to happen. They know we're about to fire up our electrical systems and we're about to change our perception. And we're like, oh, you can't hurt me, because if you guys are waiting to the left and you're trying to kill me, I'm just going to manifest going to the right, because I'm divinely protected. And so we can even see how they try to shut down certain people and like censor and all that stuff. And so some people who are divinely protected, it may have had a tiny effect because they were hitting the red button trying to see if they could shut them down. But overall, if you're divinely protected, you can't mess with them. And so that is in itself a form of manifestation, because when you are divinely protected, what that means is you are open-hearted and you are holding a high enough frequency so that you're always in the right place at the right time in order to only experience a positive polarity expression. That's what the star people are saying. And so that's it. So you want to always be heart-centered and loving, caring, kind, and give away things, and don't be scared to give away everything. I've done it before. It feels amazing, right? So you just take all your stuff, give it away, you get brand new stuff. It's beautiful. Does the moon project the holographic reality that we are in? No. So we're going back to the source frequency lens, and this is actually physics. So the frequency in the octave above us is really, really fast. So the frequency wave is very, very fast. And then it starts to slow. And then it gets even slower when it reaches the dark octave below your feet. And so each octave is a full chakra range of different colors, right? So you have our chakra colors. And then in the heavens, the colors are slightly different. And in the octave below our feet, I call it the dark octave. That's what they call it too. That one's a little darker in its nature. So it's kind of like getting a little filter to it. And so what was the question? Hologram protection. I forgot the question. What the hell was I talking about? It's sometimes that happens when I just go blank. There? Does the moon project the holographic reality? No, it's not really the moon. Okay, that's what it was. There you go. So it's the frequency is coming from above. And so you have to realize that frequency is going, it's 3 different frequency waves. And so you have your binary codex frequency, you have your location code frequency, and you have your primal experiential frequency. So that's 3 different frequencies. But those frequencies are really tiny, and then they start to spiral around like a vortex energetic. And so that actually comes down the body. So a vortex energetic kind of looks like your DNA, how it spirals up. Okay, so that's coming really, really fast, gets a little slower. That's why we perceive the physical form as being physical. And then it gets really dense or slow down there in the dark octave. And so because of this frequency is coming from the source frequency, that's known as God, or even the crystalline frequency realm, because it's being broadcast from above that down. And so then all of a sudden we can kind of see that it's just like one branching down of the holographic simulation. Now that frequency comes into your physical form and it goes out circular. and then it ripples back in. When it ripples back in, that's when it forms a sacred geometric snowflake. And this is the trick, because when you control your frequency that you are pulling in your body from the higher self, you control that frequency, you're broadcasting that frequency circular, but when it ripples back, that's when you see the shape of the physical reality. So your frequency, you can switch your frequency, which shifts the actual sacred geometric snowflake that you see when it ripples back into your physical form. And so that's really important, because if you change your frequency, you can even change your chakra lens perception. So your root chakra, if you have any darkness on the lens, wipe it off, keep it clean, right? And so then what you want to do is you want to see out the lens in a positive alignment. So we see how some people have optimism and some people have pessimism. And so that's part of your perception. So you can go through and you can rewire your brain to think more optimism, right? So your glass will always be half full. You can always see the positive in every single situation. Now that's very valuable, because all of a sudden it gives you access into the perception of everything's going to be all right. And so that's an important thing to have. But the people who are having the pessimism, who can only see the negative, they have to go through their darkness in order to rise and evolve. That's okay too, because that's where they're at on their spiritual journey. Each and every one of us is having a different perspective of a physical reality that's not really physical. It's a holographic simulation. Yeah, there are rumors that the moon was placed by the negative entities and isn't a natural part of our solar system. It's not. And so sacred geometry proves that each and every planet is where it should be. There's one planet there's not. Marduk, something like that. And so that planet was actually blown up. That's our asteroid belt. And so when you have a look at the sacred geometry, you can see that there's a mathematical code in between each and every planet in our solar system. The moon, it doesn't rotate. That's impossible. Every planet in our solar system rotates. And so it's only showing us one side. Now, how that's possible is beyond me. And so it is kind of like a ship, and it's been moved into place. And so there are rumors that they shot a missile into the moon and it made it ring like a bell. And so we do know that amateur people with the telescopes have witnessed UFO crafts coming and going from the moon. And if I wanted to spy on a planet, that's exactly where I would pick the station. I would go right to the moon and sit there and watch and see. And not only that, but there's genetic exploration that's going on here. And so they've taken DNA and they've tampered with it. They put a limit on it, but now they're trying to push us to evolve and see how far we can grow. And so you have to realize that there's many different segments of different people in the solar system. I mean, there's billions and billions of planets with billions of people from different planets. They all have their own agenda. And so even when you're looking at Earth's history, none of them know, not one person knows the true Earth history. And so needless to say, history in itself, it has to be written by a 12-person perspective because of those different expressions in the source frequency lens. And this is another reason why we see the 12 disciples and we see the perspective of the Bible written by 12 different people. That's because in order to see the actual physical reality, you need it written by 12 different people and 12 different perspectives put together as one. And so quantum computer can do that automatically for us. And they can tell us what frequency we're holding, what timeline we're sitting on, our potentials. So what's your highest potential of doing something tomorrow? The supercomputer could tell you all that. And so like I'm supposed to write a book about all this information, and the star people told me we have a quantum replicator, and the quantum replicator can replicate the book that you haven't written yet, because all time space is existing right now in the now moment. So, I mean, we're in an amazing world where magical superpowers are real, where quantum computers are real, where high technology is real, where we have the potential to manifest our wildest dreams. And it is actually okay to do this, right? Nobody will get hurt during your manifestations if you do it with your heart. So you do it from a place of love and light, and you allow these manifestations to fully form. Question. Who are the few of the original founding races of this star planet? Okay, so that's a really good one. But, you know, a lot of times what the star people tell me, and actually what they're saying right now, is that the history is not what we have been told. And so you have to realize even the pyramids being on the planet, we look at the pyramids because we can see them, we can touch them, we can feel them. We know that they're real because they're here and we can see them. It's not real. It's a holographic simulation. And so technically, if someone was to fully activate, they can go click and then the pyramid is gone. like it was never there. And so your history is the same way. They found that 70% of all memories are remembered incorrectly. And so what does that mean? That basically means that your memory is changing. So you have the potential to go inside yourself and alter the timeline that you're on, which then in turn shifts or transfers your consciousness onto a different timeline, in which your oscillation puts you on a timeline in which the memory that you just changed is your past. And so that's your true multidimensional nature. And that's how it's done, actually, is by going in, either changing your belief systems or changing your memory or changing your binary codex frequency, they are saying. And so when you start to do that, then history doesn't really matter. The only thing that matters is what timeline you're on and what cycles that you have running. Now, the civilization cycles, you can also have a look at. Let's say if you did see something in history, or you had some type of history book from your family lineage, right? The family lineage they're saying is very important. And that goes back to ancestral karma. Because let's say, for example, your great-great-grandparents had, or your grandparents, they had a pandemic in 1820, or whoever, great-grandparents. So if they had something in 1820 and they dealt with that, and then all of a sudden it gets passed down the lineage, it's in your DNA. So once it's in your DNA, even if you're not aware, that cycle repeat could still fire up. So it's more important for you to know your ancestral karma and your DNA and see what's going on in there. Now, not only that, but they're even saying that the amount of children that you're going to have is also encoded in your DNA at birth. And so your DNA knows how many children that you are going to have before you have them. And so that's how strong your DNA is, and time space is not real. It's an illusion. Yeah. What is the astral gland above the third eye? And so this is the way your chakra system works. So I want you to just take your nose and your chin, right? Because you actually have a chakra system here on your chin. It goes straight up and out the back of the head. These are chakras that go through the head. There's one at your temples, right? So they go like this and they come out. There's one that goes through the pineal gland, one through the back. There's one that goes directly up. So you have the up and down, you have the cross that way. And then you have the chin in the upper, and then you have like the unicorn in the lower. So it forms X, like an X-Men. And so all of a sudden, when these things become aligned, you start to activate them. There's a couple different glands by the third eye. So there's a bunch of different ones. But it's more important to know the chakras of the actual brain. There's even a band of neurons, right? And so that goes when you hit different brainwave frequencies that can activate. And so you can pull your soul up and out the top of your body. Now, when this happens, when all the head chakras are aligned, you fire up your Merkaba field. There is a form of energetic halo that comes above your head. And so just imagine that light is radiating up. And because your head is like this, it radiates up and it looks like a halo. And so you can activate that too. It's done with the head chakras and with your energetic grids. And yeah, all of these things put in alignment. What were they saying? My headphones are dying. Hold on one second. I'm going to switch these out. Okay. Well, sorry. One second. Okay. This way I make sure that Instagram can hear me. Okay. So just let me know. Give me a thumbs up on Instagram if you guys can hear me. I think that there's only like 6 people there. Or Allie, thumbs up me on your screen if you can hear me on Instagram. Yeah, so we'll just continue. So the astral gland. Okay, perfect. So there's many different. Now, the physical glands we all know. So we can see those. And so you can take an x-ray of the brain. You can kind of see those. Perfect. Excellent. And so, yeah, the astral glands. Now, you have chakras. Now, the chakras are not glands. They're energetic in their nature. And so, but you have one that's out front, about a foot away from the third eye. And so that's kind of important because when you're starting to talk about telepathy, okay, so telepathy kind of works like this. Your thought grid is inside your mind. And so your thoughts actually come out your third eye. And so they can hear every single thought that you are having because your thoughts are coming out the third eye. So they come out to this point in front of your body. So if you're not properly warded up or you're not properly balancing your thoughts, then they can be picked up by anybody in the universe. And so what they did for me was like, there's a form of protection here so that only select people are able to see my thoughts. And so that protection is a one way, because that's only, my thoughts being cast out into the solar system, because you want to learn how to direct your thoughts at one person. But the highly advanced beings, they can override any of this anyway. And so it's nice for us to start the practice of protecting ourselves or keeping our thoughts to ourselves, but that doesn't really matter, because the Arcturians, I can hear them all laughing right now, and they're like, you can't stop us. Like, they can just tune right in. So there's multiple ways to do it, but most importantly is just being conscious. So being consciously aware if someone is listening to you, and listen to your biological notifications, because sometimes you'll get the chills. Sometimes you'll feel like someone is in the room with you, right? Sometimes you may hear someone, you may sense something, you may get your hair stand up on the back of your neck. And so that's when pay attention to what's going on in your surroundings. Yeah. Have you ever heard of golden ones? Who are they? That there's so many beings who are golden. And not only that, but the really high frequency beings, some are golden triangle head beings. Some are physical golden colored beings. Some are golden orbs. Some are golden silhouettes. Now, when you start reaching into the higher frequency ranges, like 5D and higher, you kind of have like the shape. Okay, there we go. So the shapeshifter abilities basically allow you to go inside your subconscious mind and reprogram your biological form. And so that basically gives you full access over your binary codex frequency. Or what do you look like? And so when you start to tune into the crystalline octave realm, you have to realize that this is where the angels are. They're more crystallized in their nature, or more light beings. And so when you realize that, then all of a sudden they can come to us as any shape or form that they wish, because they're in 5D form. They can instantaneously manifest a switch. But the second that they manifest down here in a 3D, they must take on a form that exists in the 3D holographic simulation. So what is 3D? Length times width times height. And so they have to take, and so a lot of times they'll take on energy orbs. So they'll come with some sort of form. Or angels, they may take on the actual angel form, because that's what we believe. However, they're not actually, they could potentially pick and choose a form, but a lot of times they let your consciousness pick and choose what you need to see. And so they just drop down and you see what you need to see, because that's what gives them the ability to be here. However, they can see us at any time that they see fit. How do I maintain my high frequency? I often bounce in and out of different densities day by day and find it really frustrating. So that's actually a really good thing that you're bouncing in and out, because it actually means that you're clearing the densities that you need to clear on a daily basis. And so think about it this way. If you hopped up to a high frequency and you stayed in the high frequency and you had any density in your energetic grids, there would be no way for you to clear that without walking through the darkness. Now, you can either tune all the way back down to the darkness, which is an option. It's not normally taken, but it is an option. I've done it, so I know. And so, or you can do what you're doing, which is you go up, go a tiny bit down, go back up, tiny bit down. See, this is the normal path of evolution. You go up, and the hero's quest is a perfect example of this. The hero rises, stumbles and falls, and then they rise up again. Most of the times they do this once, and then they go up a lot. And then all of a sudden they do it on a smaller basis, and then they go up a lot more. But you do have the potential to take a swan dive. And so it's very rare that that happens, but it does happen. And so you look at people with alcohol addiction, right? And so a lot of times this is caused by attachments that never got cleared. And so they may have an alcohol problem in their 20s. They go to rehab, they get clean. 20 years goes by, now they're 40. Okay. So 40, and all of a sudden they have one drink and they fell off the wagon, but they felt like this urge, like this pull to go have the drink. That's because there was an attachment that they didn't clear that pushed the emotion or the thought into their mind, body, spirit complex and told them, oh, you want to go drink, you want to go drink, you want to go drink. So it pushes your little red button. So when you clear the attachments, it takes that desire away. So addictive recovery would go a lot easier with people when the spiritual leaders start to take over that process and really step into the rehabs and start clearing attachments, because all the nasty attachments are in the heavy liquor. Each and every different type of liquor has a different type of attachment, and all of the attachments are pushing emotion codes and thoughts. And so if you've ever seen someone who will have an entire conversation and it'll be all negative and they'll just go back and forth and back. And then all of a sudden they may scowl or they may like talk to themselves. That's actually a thought grid attachment. And so those things are really nasty. They need to be cleared off people. So the people who walk the darkness first, they learn all these emotion codes and then they learn how to clear these attachments off people. And then all of a sudden, this is called the dark empath ability. And so through walking the darkness, you learn how to clear it off of people and bring them more light. It's a healing ability. So it's a blessing in disguise. Nobody wants to walk all that darkness. However, when you walk it, you have abilities that manifest from it. Yeah. Is it true that drinking alcohol when you sip it allows attachments to enter? Whether you sip it, whether you shoot it, whether, there's so many different ways of dealing with alcohol. And some alcohol is absorbed through the skin. And so, each bottle of alcohol contains different attachments. So once again, let's break that down. So I used to be a bartender. And so tequila is a prime example of this. Many, many people, they black out when they drink the stuff. So there's blackout attachments attached to that particular type of liquor. Now, some alcohol makes people violent or loud. And so, I'm not going to name all of the names because I know every name brand, but it's each bottle has different emotion codes programmed into it. And you have to realize it affects the body differently. And then not only that, but you have two separate polarity or two separate expressions of this. You have a masculine and you have the feminine. And so females, they don't digest liquor as fast as males. And so the attachments may be different for females than males. So all of these things scientifically have to be evaluated. Now, the star people have technology that removes attachments. And so what they actually do is they pull the entire meridian line. So they start with the meridians, then they go to the ley lines. Ley lines is like laying flat. Meridians is straight. And so they pull the entire meridian. Now, when they do this, you can feel them lifting your body up off of your bed. And so, but they pull it. And then it's kind of like stringing the line and squeezing the attachments off. But sometimes they'll be pulling it up here and the attachment will hop and it'll go all the way down by your toe. And so this is the reason why they have to keep going over the same line over and over and over again. And then, 2 or 3 days later, they have to go over it again to make sure the thing is off or did it hop back on, right? And so these are just how it works. And so when we become aware of the attachments and we wisen up to them, we learn how to diffuse them or kick them off ourselves. So you go into a meditative state and you ask your higher self for guidance because you always want to trust yourself first before other people. Healers are wonderful if they're healing you for free or if they are assisting in your self-healing because all healing is self-healing. And so healers are great. Sometimes you can go to Reiki healers. That's great. But you should not rely on any other healers except yourself. It has to come from inside of you. Every time I've healed myself, it's come from inside of me. And no one has ever helped me heal except the star people. You can help them. You can ask them because they're wonderful people. But go from inside of you. And so go into a meditative state. You can even ask the star people. Star people, thank you for helping me clear my attachments. And so you take it by one chakra at a time. I'm going to focus on the root chakra. I'm going to close my eyes. I'm going to see my root chakra. Root chakra, thank your higher self. Thank you, star people. Show me any and all attachments in my root chakra. You can use, once again, the hand movement came right up and it pointed on my heart. And so for some reason, they want you guys to do that when you're doing this too. And so your bottom 2 fingers are crisscrossed when you do this. And so put on your heart and then close your eyes and visualize your root chakra. Feel into the root chakra. How does that feel? Your perception is shifting onto the root, the red, fire. Okay. Ask for the attachment's name, ask for his emotion code, or you want to get his thought, right? So what are you feeling? What are you thinking? What is a negative emotion that you are getting triggered on? Now, these thoughts, a lot of times they'll push thoughts inside your mind. And so this sounds so crazy, but it's true. And I know it's true because I've experienced it. I just didn't understand what it was until now. And so it'll sound like you are having a thought inside your head. So you are self-sabotaging yourself. That's actually an attachment, though. It can potentially be an attachment. 95% of the times, it's an attachment, the star people are saying. Because a lot of times, humanity is not negative in their nature at all. And so we have been heavily programmed and sedated to our true intuition. If you take a look at children don't really have negative thoughts. They don't even see colors, because children can look at someone who's all tattooed up and they just see a coloring book and they think it's beautiful. And so we're taught and we are programmed to see diversity and separation. And that's not the way that we were born into this world. And so if you took a child and put it in a very, very positive, loving, caring, kind environment for 7 years, then all of a sudden you would start to see that child grow and develop into a positive polarity adult. So their glass would be half full. Yeah, so if there's any questions, we're actually going to wrap it up for tonight. It's almost 9:30. Yeah, this was wonderful. And thank you guys so incredibly much. If you guys can give me a thumbs up and a like, thank you so much for watching. Also, I do just want to say, I do offer private sessions. And so the private sessions can be found at daniellelipton.com. I believe I put my website in the title of the video so you guys can find me. And so I offer private ascension sessions. So basically I pull apart your energetic grids and I see what needs to be healed. And then I tell you what the star people want you to know in order to really level up your manifestations and really raise your frequency into a higher degree. So a lot of people have been shifting their entire perspective. I've had a lot of people activate extrasensory abilities during my sessions. I do also offer a slightly less expensive healing session. And so I did notice that a lot of people need to release, and they need to release, they need to clear their energetics. And then also there's a process of raising your frequency that gets done during that. And so both sessions we call in the star family. And so I call them in, I see who's who, and then we allow them to help heal you, or we allow them to help you evolve. And so a lot of times when you do the ascension session, the star people put focus on you, and then they start doing advanced shadow work with you. And that's specifically to get you to evolve very rapidly. And so those two things are offered at daniellelipton.com. Oh, I do believe that we're also doing the monthly channeling group session. And so that's actually a Zoom call. So that one is it's more accessible for everybody to come. And so if you do that, we'll be going live on that date. I believe it's Saturday, maybe Saturday. And then we take it into a private Zoom. This way you guys can ask private questions during that. And then you can, you have my full attention for that Zoom call. So yeah, all these things are at daniellelipton.com. Tree of Life Organization is a Facebook page. And so that's basically where we really like to bring in affiliates and people who like to work with us. And so that's how we find people, and that's the organization. Right now, treeoflifeorganization.com. You can also find all of my posts and downloads. And so there's over 500 posts on how to access the 5D frequencies. And all of my information is brought in to such a place in which you can take the information and put it into your real life. Because if you have all this spiritual information and you can't use it to better your life, then it's not valuable. The information that I put out, you can better your life. You can see the perspective in it. And so you should really have a look and read, and then send us any questions, because even though I only got through half the questions I had on my list, still, that's a couple of them. So, if you send us some questions, maybe, you guys will get lucky and they'll be on the next episode. Okay. Last question. How do you stay positive? Things look so bleak to me. Well, it's because I've been through the thick of it. I walk my darkness. And so I've had so many tragic and traumatizing experiences. And, when life hands you lemons, I grabbed a knife and I made lemonade. And it took me a lot of releasing to get to that point, because at one point I was a cripple for 12 years. And so I used to think, just end it. This is horrible. Like, I couldn't even walk. I was bedridden, and then I had a hormone imbalance after my daughter was born. I had a miscarriage after my daughter was born, same time. And so it knocked down. I spent about 12 years. Well, 7 was really bad. And so all hope was lost for me. And then all of a sudden in 2019, my entire life did a 360. And then what happened was I healed myself in about 2.5 weeks. And I was like, how did I go from being a cripple for 12 years to all of a sudden I feel a whole ton better and I'm not in any pain? And so that's because I raised my frequency. So when you feel like everything looks so bleak and all hope is lost, that means that you have to change yourself, because the world outside you can change depending on what you change inside yourself. This is a hologram. This is not solid. This is not real. Your memories are not real. Your emotion code sets inside your physical form right now in this very moment, that is real. And if you can clear that, you actually have the potential to pull so much energetic into your energetic grids. You can actually supercharge your energy right now in the now moment, so that When you wake up in the morning, you put your feet on the ground, you feel like you could run a mile a minute. Now, we can all download that into your body in the now moment in a split second. And so how do you do it? You get really excited. And so if you've ever seen a kid who was going on a field trip, maybe they're going to the zoo, you'll notice that they'll wake up before their alarm clock hits. And so how can we do that? So what makes you excited? So schedule it, pencil it in for tomorrow morning. How do you feel? Did it make you feel better? Did you get happy and excited knowing that you were going to do something really, really fun? If you did, then that's the trick, right? Because that all of a sudden it just changed your perspective. And then all of a sudden you knew that today was going to be a really fun and exciting day. So you raised your frequency. Now do that every day. Now, yes, people have to work. And yes, you do go through life hands you lemons, right? But the lemons, it's meant to do this with your frequency because you learn from the lemons and you make lemonade. And then day by day, you can also go baby step by baby step. And baby steps was great because I was at a point where I was just like, just breathe. And so the trauma was there and like the emotions and your lungs vibrate and you're only breathing the top half of your lungs. And so my whole body felt like it was shutting down at one point. And I was like, just breathe, just breathe. And so just breathe got me through the tough moments. But just breathe turned into, let's do a meditation. Let's breathe into the belly, not the upper lungs. Okay. Today is a little bit better than yesterday, right? And so you just start making the tiny positive changes, and then your biologics start to make tiny positive frequencies up in the higher realms. And so you just day by day it, right? That's what you're doing in your linear perception. That's not actually happening though, because the truth of the matter is that the only time space is right now in this moment. The rest of everything that you see is an illusion. And with that, I say good night and many, many love and blessings. Thank you guys so much for following and liking. Oh, if you guys do want to throw any sort of donations to the organization, we are at Venmo, Cash App, and PayPal at Star People Group. That's Star People Group. Thank you very, very much. Many love and blessings. You guys have a great night.